massively appreciate you joining us, or joining me and the expert team. I'm going to talk to you about challenges in building multilingual platforms. And just as a spoiler, this is going to be me being perpetually very, very excited about very weird technical things going wrong. So if it seems like my voice and face mismatch the content, it's because I love when bad things happen in interesting ways. My name is Jessica Rose. I am right at home in 2024. I really like, and those of you who heard this morning, you're like, oh, Jess likes Birmingham and languages. And I also like used books, karaoke, and looking at pictures of people's pets. So if anybody after this wants to show me like your dog or your cat or your turtle, I'll be really embarrassing and excited. This is my whole personal brand. I'm always very embarrassing and excited. I'm told that it never gets boring. I work on the Common Voice project, and that's the multilingual platform I'm going to be talking to you about. And just to apologize again and in advance, I'm very excited about languages and so bad at them. If there are still beers afterwards, I would joyously drink one. Don't just wander away if I try and ask you about your home language. It's not rude, it's safe. So this is from the OBDIL, which does some fantastic work with mapping how languages are used on the web. And this is a very, very busy image directly borrowed from them with citation. And this is talking about the language of written content in the web. And I think this is really exciting because we've got about 20% of this in English. And that's actually less than I might have imagined. That was really interesting to me. Chinese is coming in at a little less than 20% as well. And this made quite a bit of sense to me. Here we are in Berlin, and this is really, really exciting because German is a relatively well-resourced language on the web, but German gets to sit up here with the other category. But that's also 35% of languages on the web. There are many more than 7,000 languages in common use. And it's really exciting, but also a little bit cursed to see how much English really dominates in this. 20% of the web users are not native English speakers. For those of you who, this is a recap, just be like, yeah, I knew that, and be very smug in your hearts. I work on the Common Voice team where we make a web platform that collects user data from speech data, and we also create from that data a CC0 data set. We've learned that there's more than 7,000 languages in the world. Why are there more than 7,000? Why is that not a more specific answer? Amazing. For those of you on the video, you couldn't hear it, but in a perfect unison, folks yelled because it's difficult to map languages for social and standards reasons. And right now, we think that speech technology works really, really well in about 20 languages. Does anybody use a speech assistant or speech technology now? Does anybody think it works really well in your home language? I saw one person go up like that, and English speaker? So the definition of really well changes day to day. The way our platform works is that somebody comes to us and says, hey, I speak this language, can you add it to the platform? And they either get myself or my colleague Gina, who's our languages expert, and we say, yes! Gina says it in a much more professional, much more laid-back way. Through a crowdsourced community way, we then localize the web platform that collects speech data into the target language. We then collect a text corpus of CC0 sentences to be read. We launch the new language on our platform. We ask people to begin voice contributions. Once people contribute their voices, their voice clips. It's not a Little Mermaid thing. We don't take their voices. We then ask other people to listen to those and say, hey, does this person saying what this sentence says? Oh, good. Or what? No. And then once every 3 months, we release those data sets. And this sounds really, really complicated when we look at this big process. But the exciting thing is that to start looking at multi-language platforms, to start building multi-language platforms, it's actually not that bad. We need to ask ourselves just one simple question, and then we're done. What languages do I need to include? All of you are fantastic people. All of you have a lot of push on your teams and companies and your products. You say, hey, I want to be releasing our website or our product or our platform in more than one language. The first thing your boss is going to ask, if you're not the boss yet, is what languages do I want to include? And for some projects, this could be relatively streamlined. If you're here in the EU, you may want to include the working languages of the EU, which I knew at one time and have forgotten after Brexit and a lot of crying. It's fine, they didn't let me vote. And this is a really, really fun question, because you might say, we want to start a brand new project and we don't want to release this as a multilingual platform yet. I'll say, okay, definitely see me after class and I'll try and talk you into it, but maybe just that one language to build in, you don't need to do anything else. Unfortunately for my job, the languages we want to include are every single human language possible. Very slowly, though, we have a team of 5. And we've just got one more question yet, and this question is going to be very simple and very streamlined, and it can't hurt us at all, which is, what is a language? This question is so messy and so philosophical. If we tried to answer it within our team, or if we tried to answer it amongst ourselves, sort of round robin, it would be very boring for the streams. But this would automatically, anytime we say, here's how we're going to define what a language is, we're going to leave people out, just because the people making the decisions and the definitions are by default going to cut people out. But we don't have to do it. There are language standards. Surely all of us know that every type of technical standard is complete, all-encompassing, has no edge cases, and nothing can go wrong. A language standard is surely going to tell us all of the languages that are out there, and very completely what to expect from each language. So, we've got the ISO, I'm very excited about standards. It's very, very, very weird. We've got the ISO 6391. And this is a standard for macro languages, the overarching language families. If anybody works for the web, lang equals, and the 2-letter code you're using is generally a 639.1. I definitely know this, but I'm not going to trip it up on stage. What's the 2-letter code for German? Yes, okay. I should have, so it's DE. Here we've got MS for Malaysian, or for Malay. We've got AB for Arabic. We've got EN for English, and ID for Indonesian. And because these macro languages are the big family ones, we need a little bit more specificity. So here we've got MSA for Malay. Okay. ARA for Modern Standard Arabic. ING for, I actually genuinely don't remember which English they said is the standard English. I'm probably the one I started with. And IND for Bahasa Indonesia as a larger language family. And we could be done. We could be finished right now, except this is the Tajik alphabet, and it says Tajik alphabet, yeah? This is the Tajik alphabet, and it says Tajik alphabet. This is the Tajik alphabet, and it says Tajik alphabet. Multiple languages, not just the big language families, but even coming down to ISO 6393, can have multiple different orthographies, multiple ways to write them. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this cursed? In the most beautiful, fundamental way that any complex system is cursed. So ISO 639, it's not enough if you want to have tons and tons of languages that you taxonomize and offer and localize in. It doesn't really have enough flexibility. Language as it's lived can see dramatic variations in the types of ways you write a language, but also spoken language can vary incredibly wildly with region and with social grouping. Is anybody here from sort of the Berlin area? Is anybody here from Bavaria? So, do y'all speak the same type of German as folks do in Köln? No, it's very gentle. You're like, no, we speak it properly. Which is not, I have personally no opinion on either way, but everybody lives and expresses language in a different way. We're in an especially weird place with the Common Voice platform because we need to think about localizing text, which many of you might, and we also have to think about taxonomizing speech, which, if any of you do, come back and talk to me after this. I'd love to hear how you do it. But it's not needlessly complex, but mercilessly complex. What if we added another standard? That would fix everything, right? It doesn't fix everything, but it kind of gets us most of the way there. We've got the BCP 47 codes, and this gives us a lot more flexibility in standards. And I say, I still want the macro language family to be Malay. I want to use the Latin alphabet as my orthography. And here, I can say, I want to be talking about Malay as it's spoken in Malaysia. BCP 47 starts with the same ISO code, that 2-letter macro language, fine. We can optionally add a script tag, and then we can just keep stapling more information to the end. Where it's spoken, if there's a social group variant, a sociolect. Love it. Okay, we've thought about what languages to include. We've thought about what standard we like best, and everybody should pick the one they love best, but it's this one, use this one. Now all we need to do is start with a canonical version of the language we use on our page and platform and translate it into however many languages we want to work with. Very luckily for myself, I work on the Mozilla team where people who are smarter and harder working than me already invented a localization platform. So we ask folks to come to the Pontoon platform and to localize from there. If any of you are thinking about using a localization platform, have a look at a bunch of them, but this one can be self-hosted and it's free. I'm a big fan of free. We've got our core application here, and from there we create resource files, the sort of dictionary files that we're going to ask people to translate. We send them to a friendly robot for the Pontoon bot, who sends them to Pontoon, who sends them to perfect, brilliant, helpful open source contributors, who then kicks it all the way back and gets released as a functional platform in, as of yesterday, I think 120 languages? We should be done. We've thought about what languages to include. We've had a weird little standards bicker at the beginning of that, which is necessary for any localization project. We've picked a localization platform. Finally, all we need to do is get this text that we already have localized and translated. All we need to do is display that text. Perfect, fine, nothing is wrong, everything's ready to go, except that text is incredibly difficult. This is one of our Turkic languages. And even if we don't speak Turkish or a Turkic language, we could say, This just didn't work at all. Encoding is very weird, very broken, and standards don't always work for it. So not only do we have to think about the way individual characters present, but also the direction of text as we present it. Whose first language is a Western language written with a Roman alphabet? Whose first language goes the other direction? Yes. Ooh, wait, where are y'all from? I'll get you after class. Right to left languages and vertical display languages have a massive amount of additional overhead trying to get fit into platforms that were designed for left to right written language. trying to deal with text is, this is the thing where I'm very excited about things that are messy. Text in different languages and different orthographies is messy when you ingest it. When people give you the appropriately translated, appropriately localized string, we might misunderstand it on ingestion. And sometimes this happens with byte ordering, especially with what we might think of as like character-based languages. So we had a big problem with this with our Japanese corpus and with our Chinese corpora. And null termination, sometimes it just goes boop, boop, no. It's a very technical description of null termination, I'm sorry. When this gets transmitted to us, or we transmit it onto the user, we can get character corruption again. And we can get inconsistent representation. I'm so sorry, I should definitely know the technical terms for these, but we've got a problem right now with some of our Albanian display, where instead of it being an R wearing a little hat, it's, I'm so sorry, it's showing an L with a dash in it. And it's a very, very exciting transmission error that we're not yet getting, it's probably fixed by the time I check my computer. And then when we come to store the data that's been transmitted, we can find characters are lost, and that when we're looking to say, okay, we've built the system expecting no more than 180 characters, that's fantastic for the language the platform was first designed in. But we may be looking at a language where localization translation of the same string needs a lot more space for the beauty of the language it was designed in. Well, what could we do to fix that? So I feel like everybody's putting UTF-8 on the top of their websites by now. Look, I just checked. Use a standardized encoding like UTF-8, except that doesn't really always include all of the languages if you're shooting for every language we can think of. Specify, double check, and troubleshoot the correct encoding when exchanging data. Verify the compatibility of character encodings across platforms and application, and really consistently be looking for libraries and frameworks that handle character encoding in the different languages that we're not great at yet. Okay, so we could be done, except the things that we really need to carefully consider: text direction. What direction are things going in? Not a problem, often a problem. How to encode these characters. UTF-8 does most of that, but keeping in mind that even when we look at UTF-8, there's going to be orthographies it doesn't yet cover. And then display. It's really hard to design for, and it's really hard to develop for languages outside of our day-to-day experience. Working closely, A, to expand your team so it includes better linguistic diversity, which is better diversity in general, and B, really, really great communication with the language communities you're able to aiming to serve. My favorite tech problems about language. Is this sentence really, really weird if you're a non-native English speaker? Because this sentence is really weird if you're a native English speaker. Sometimes tech problems that aren't about languages are still about languages. Access to services on the web isn't universally, access to shared web services isn't universal. When we think about resource available to users who come primarily from different language groups, many times we also see resource constraints. Oh, let's go back one. This one, who uses a Google service in your day-to-day, that's all right, me too, in your day-to-day work or play? Fantastic. I'm not selling Google. We use GCP as our cloud services platform. And we find this works incredibly well, except we've got Pashto speakers who are based in Afghanistan. We've got Mandarin speakers who are based in mainland China. We've got Persian speakers who are based in Iran. And we've got Korean speakers who are based in a region not served. we've had a fantastic time on GCP, except for the number of language communities based in countries that it just doesn't work in, which includes roughly a third of the world's population. Thinking about access to services and where you host things. We're looking at projects around this now, about third-party applications, but we haven't come to a really, really good solution for this yet. We're still working on it, and I assure you that use a VPN is not great advice to all of your end users. We also found that a lot of our folks who want to consume the data set, so we have our platform to collect this data, and we want to make sure anybody who wants it can use it. Downloading 47 gigs, 48, 40, downloading a big blob of speech data that I should have triple checked before this talk takes a lot of time, and in a lot of environments, it's massively resource dependent. And we've had two fantastic talks today also pointing out that going ahead and letting people download all of this speech data they may not care about probably isn't the most ecological approach. Our approach has been to split data sets into individual language groups, just in case people need that, to create delta releases, so, hey, here's what's changed since the last data set. And if folks are absolutely intense about language data, they can have the whole thing, but served optionally. We like this a little bit better than just dumping the whole data set at everybody, but I'm always excited to hear more about what other folks are doing where they offer large downloads to make it more available for folks. The hardest language problems aren't about services, and they're not about standards, or they're not about code. They're about how passionate, and how rightfully passionate, people are about their home languages. How would you say this in French? Pain au chocolat? Oh, just that's it. That's the only option. Yeah. So we had somebody in the most beautiful, just for the folks on the thing, I'm not, for folks on the stream, we had somebody in the beautiful, most clearest voice say, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation just to hurt you, oh, that's pain au chocolat. And I said, really? You were there, you heard me say that. And they say, oh, it could be chocolatine as well, but with doubt in their heart, a little bit. This could be a pain au chocolat, but I think chocolatine is pretty descriptive. I quite like it. But depending on the regional type of French or the French sociolect you speak, would it be fair, I'm picking on you again, would it be fair that in your heart, one of these is absolutely correct? And not even a yes, you'd be like, and does the other one feel wrong? That was a very, very mournful, very reluctant nod. So yes, I recognize that both are correct, but one of them feels incorrect. And this isn't because people are emotionally invested in this, one of the best pastries ever invented. It's not just that people are very passionate about this perfect, incomparable pastry. It's that because our languages are such a big part of ourselves that we get a little bit defensive. Moving from the US to the UK, I spent about 10 years, 12 years, when somebody would spell tire, they spell it with a Y. Ooh. Which, of course, is correct, I'm told, and a completely normal way to spell tire, I've been reassured. But even knowing this, and that this is someone else's language-ish, and I'm in their home, even then, the automatic, oof, that's wrong, lives in my heart forever. Languages as variants are such an incredible part of how we conceptualize our own language and our own selves. So folks who are, I'm gonna keep saying French because I've just bought a bunch of French books and it's on the mind. People who are French speakers who grew up in Nice, beautiful city, beautiful accent, beautiful French, have a very, very firm idea, I think, maybe, that the way they speak French is French. And when you talk to folks in Quebec, which is very, very exciting Chaucerian French, it's like a Shakespearean lumberjack French. I love it. And when you talk to folks in Quebec, they say the same thing. Oh, you know what? I think the way I speak French is French. The way people conceptualize variance as the language itself is so beautiful and so exciting. The name of a language is often very, very political and very, very personal. You can have overlapping countries that speak mutually intelligible versions of what an outsider would consider the same language. And they say, oh no, I don't speak that, I speak this. And that, they're absolutely correct, it's their language. Similarly, language users of the same language can often disagree about how to use the language. It could be orthography in text, or it could be that this is never a chocolatine. And this makes a lot of sense. The big challenge with any kind of localization that sits outside of our own shared language experience is we should want to better increase access through multilingual platforms. In the same way that we want to increase accessibility because it's the right thing to do. In the same way that we want to decrease the size of a page or product to make it easier for people to download or access because it's the right thing to do. Where we can, making things available in different languages is absolutely the right thing to do, but balancing that we can't tell people that this is a chocolatine or a pain au chocolat. I love the slight horror where you're like, it's not, it's not. But we need to balance getting in these structures and getting in ways to support with space for people to tell us, this is not what I meant, this is not what I said, this is not what I speak, is massively important. The thing, one of the things I'm the most excited about in my day-to-day job is the opportunity to build a platform where people get to tell us what our platform should say, and people should get to tell us in their own language. I'm so excited to learn about more and more people building global platforms with the need to talk to users in their own language. Thank you so much. Oh, also, if anybody speaks Arabic as a first language, I have some questions about an encoding thing. It's fine. It's like a quick question. It's fine. Oh, gosh, do any of you have any questions for me is the more polite question. Yeah, no pressure. Oh, sorry.
You said that it is not possible to render all languages that you deal with in Unicode.
It's not possible to render all of the languages we would like to render in Unicode, in the same way that all of the languages we would like to include are not yet represented in ISO standards.
But Unicode has the goal to be able to render all languages of the world. So where is it lacking?
So y'all can escape at any point. It's not rude. So there's a lag at each stage. So in order for a language to be included in Unicode encoding, it first needs to be recognized by ISO. And there's a lag between ISO registration, your script being recognized by Unicode, and your script being included in Unicode. But there's also this backlog here of languages that are either blocked for ISO registration or that are taking a little bit of time. So this process of, I have a language that's not in Unicode yet, can start way, way back here with, I have a language that ISO doesn't recognize as a language yet. So it's not that Unicode is dropping the ball at all, it's that they've got a backlog, ISO's got a backlog, and we also have some languages that either aren't fussed about it or don't think they can meet the ISO requirements.
Are we talking about big languages or more of the tribal languages, small languages?
So I think over-encompassing term of low resource language is really, really useful here. It's not that the language itself is under-resourced, it's that support for it around technical infrastructure, support around standards, and support for content on the web, in that order, doesn't have as much resource around it. So the unhappy answer is it depends. A language being recognized by ISO as a language also has some requirements that not every spoken human language meets, or not every human language meets. So it can just be that, again, the way I define a language, the way ISO defines a language, is by nature going to exclude some languages. So it could just be that in this definition of a language by a standards body, they haven't found a way to fit, or they don't fit.
Thank you.
Thank you. It feels like a plant of a question. Like, Jess, talk about Unicode and standard. If you don't ask me any more questions, we can all leave. Go, go, go before anybody asks about Sociolex. Go. That wasn't an invitation to ask about Sociolex. If anybody wants to listen to them, I'll bother people after. Thank you so much.